Thank you very much. It's Linda Mollenhauer, and I'm going to start the session and then hand it over to my colleague Heather Graham. We'll start by just going to the second slide, which we're having a little bit of trouble doing here. It'll just take one moment for us to be able to move the slide. I'm sorry, we're just waiting to be able to move our slides. Technology is a wonderful thing, but sometimes it has glitches. Okay, so hopefully we'll have some control here to be able to move the slides very shortly. Hopefully it'll allow us to do it in 1 minute. I'm sorry for this. So Petra, I hope you're listening here. We don't seem to have control over being able to change our slides. So if you could just hand over control.
Hello, I'm Heather.
Yes.
You just use your mouse, not the mouse, but the arrow on the keyboard.
Yeah, we're doing that, and it's not working out. Once when we tested just before when you had a control, but there we go. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your patience. We wanted to check in with you before we started our workshop or webinar and make sure that you're in the right one by seeing if any of these statements resonate with you. So the first is, some days I feel all we ever do is participate in roundtables, partnerships, and other collaborations. We also hear sometimes not all collaborations have a direct value to us, or we know we should do more collaboration, but we're not sure how or where. Some other statements that may resonate with you, and will tell you you're in the right webinar, is, we have a number of partners, but I'm not sure they're the right ones. Or we have lots of partners, but a few are carrying the biggest load of work. And the final one that may resonate with you or sound familiar is, I sometimes find my organization is not supporting me in our collaboration efforts. So these are some of the things that we hear from organizations and people that we work with when they start talking about collaboration. So our webinar today has 3 key objectives. The first is to talk about, to provide you, in fact, with some of the things to think about when assessing your organizational readiness. So the first part of our webinar, we're going to talk about what you need to do within your own organization to be ready to collaborate. The second is we want to talk to you about how you can evaluate the value of collaborations, whether they're potential collaborations that are coming your way or are existing collaborations. So we're going to go through a checklist of some of the things that will tell you whether or not that you're in ones that are of value to you. And finally, we're going to talk about how to find and nurture the right partners. So we understand that in a webinar like this that we can only touch down lightly on a number of these topics, and we're going to talk to you at the end of the webinar about a new resource that's available to you on collaboration, and we'll give you lots of tools and vignettes that will help you with that. So those are the key pieces. Now, as we go through the first part, which is asking the question about whether your organization is ready to be a good collaborative partner, think about it not only in the context, again, as you're entering into relationships, and in the current environment, that's a critical part of what you're all needing to do, partnerships with other organizations. But even if you're well down the road, and most of you will have partnerships and be well down the road in collaboration, still there is an opportunity to go back and look at your own organization and make sure it's got the pieces in place to ensure that you can be an authentic collaborative partner. We thought it might be helpful to just spend a minute to talk about what collaboration is. And we're defining it today as a well-defined relationship entered into by two or more different partners. They may be individuals, organizations, other networks, coming together from various sectors, groups, and or communities to achieve common goals. That's our definition of collaboration, and we want to just stress that there is a very, very wide continuum of collaborative arrangements that can be made between your organization and other individuals, organizations, or networks. And we wanted to take a moment on this because the language is a little bit confusing out there, and lots of different language to describe that definition. So think of collaboration as something that can be used interchangeably with partnerships, integrations, strategic alliances, networks, coalitions, and so on. That really the word collaboration here can be used interchangeably with those. And that there is a wide continuum, as I mentioned, that can range from very loose, less formal kind of arrangements with other organizations. They might be something like coming together to share information or share resources, to much more complex arrangements that you can have with other organizations where you're trying to bring about system change, or you're looking to integrate your service delivery, or you're trying to find ways where you can share some back office. Those more complex collaborations are the ones that we're going to focus on today. Not so much, all of the things that we're talking about will relate to the less formal ones where you're just sharing information, but we really are talking about ones that sort of go a little bit deeper than that. We also want to stress that when we're talking about collaboration, we do not include in that mergers and amalgamations. In our view, those are distinct, where two organizations come together to create a new organization or one organization. So we would not put that on our continuum of collaboration. So let's go through a list of things that you need to think about within your own organization to make sure you're ready to be able to be an effective and authentic collaborative partner. All right, well, let's begin by, and maybe as we're going through these things, you can think about your own organization and think about whether or not some of these, whether or not these characteristics are present in your own organization. If they are, good on you, fabulous, that's wonderful, then you're going to be well positioned to be an authentic partner, or you probably will find you are being an authentic partner and collaborator. But if there are some things that you feel aren't present, then maybe it's an opportunity to go back and have some dialogue with people internally and think about how you might prepare yourself to be a better collaborative partner. Let's start with a key one that is really important piece in being an authentic partner or collaborator, and that is really to understand that you're going to have to give up some control and power. And it's interesting because lots of us are very familiar with managing organizations, a single organization. We're used to a bit of a hierarchical structure where you have a board, you have an ED or CEO, managers, and frontline staff, and there's a sense of a continuous line of controls and so on within the organization. What makes collaboration so different is that you're coming to the table together with partners in an equitable way, and you're going to be together arriving at decisions and coming to some consensus around what your shared purpose is. And so this is a really critical part of this. Now, in any collaboration, unless it's one where you're just sharing resources or information, in almost any collaboration, there is going to be inequity between some of the partners. It may stem from playing different roles, bringing different resources to the table. But what we want to stress is to really think about when you're sitting at that collaborative table, being able to give up some control and power, because there is going to be that shared decision making. And even though there may be inequities, you should be thinking of yourself as all equally contributing to the dialogue and to coming to consensus. The other thing that distinguishes collaboration and is important to think about is you have to be able to deal with complex accountabilities. Within an organization, of course, you have accountabilities, internal accountabilities, you have accountabilities to your funders, to the people that you serve, to a broader stakeholder base. Now, what makes it more interesting with collaborations is you have to sit down and you have to think about accountabilities, not only to those accountabilities you have to deliver on in your own organization, but also the accountabilities that the collaboration partners need to deliver on. It may be the funders to that collaboration. It may be, it will certainly be an accountability to each other, and also the unique stakeholders. So one thing that has to be acknowledged and accepted is that in collaborations, authentic collaborations, there is going to be more complex accountabilities that need to be addressed. Let's move to some other characteristics that are critical in authentic collaborations. And again, think about your own organization and whether you have a real readiness to be an authentic partner. Another characteristic is to have a comfort level with conflict. So conflict in collaborations, particularly those that are dealing with more complex issues or complex integrations and so on, inevitably there is going to be conflict. And in fact, I would suggest to you that in any healthy collaboration, there will be conflict, and it should be seen as a positive force. It often is a reflection of the fact that you have engaged stakeholders. You have different personalities sitting around the table. You may have different values. You may have different interests in terms of what you're trying to achieve. And so conflict is inevitable. The really key piece is to not try to suppress that conflict or deny it, but to acknowledge it. So that's an important piece to recognize within your own organization, to talk to managers, to talk to board about the fact that there it may well be some conflict and how that might get well managed. And then tied to that, I think, is in authentic collaboration, to work effectively, your own organizational culture needs to support collaboration. We thought we'd just take a minute and ask you to go click over on the chat function that you see on the right-hand side and just type in a word or two that reflect the values that you think would support collaboration. So just go over to the chat box there and click on the empty box and just type in a word that might, in your view, reflect a value that you think is critical to and supports the culture internally of collaboration? Anything come to mind for people? And if there isn't, that's okay too. We can talk some more about it. I think that when we talk about culture, we're talking about all kinds of things. We're talking about the language that your organization uses. It may be your service principles and how you decide to deliver your programs, and certainly the values that you might have as an organization. So some of those evaluations and some of those values, and I imagine the organizations that we're talking to today really have some of those values in place that would actually make them a good collaborative partner. Some of those values in terms of respecting diverse points of views, in terms of understanding communications and being open and transparent. So look to your own organization, make sure that culture's in place, and also look to the way your own organization behaves. We would suggest that if your own organization isn't in fact internally very collaborative between, for example, the executive director and the board, between the management team, and so on, then in fact that's the place to start, because we would even argue to say if you aren't internally got a strong team approach and a strong sense of collaboration, it's going to make it very hard for you to go out and be an authentic partner. So some of you have typed in some very important words, I think, and capture some of what we're actually trying to say here. And somebody's typed in collective impact. I think that's an excellent notion of a way of thinking that needs to be present in the way, in your own culture, that's going to help you be more authentic. Also effective communication, clarification, really, really critical. We're going to actually talk some more about that. And in fact, that's the next item here on our presentation. Okay, and it's interesting to say that, because another part of being ready as a good collaborative partner is to be able to be transparent about our expectations and challenges. And I think that when you talk about effective communication and clarification, the person that wrote that in, which is right on the mark, we're talking about internally, is there a transparency of expectations and challenges, in the sense that your board is very open about its expectations. You have a kind of, we talked about the culture, you have a kind of culture that is willing to open up to some of those challenges. Another addition to the values is valuing unique strengths of oneself and others. Excellent example of another value that should be present in your culture that's going to support you. And being able to value those unique strengths of oneself and others, even when you think of that, at the heart of that, is internally you have a transparency, so people feel comfortable talking about what their expectations are, what their challenges are, what their strengths are. So if that's present in your organization, that's going to go a great distance to being able to be ready to be a good collaborative partner. And then linked to that, again, if we make our way through your own organization, and I hope you're thinking about your organization, and this is a checklist potentially to bring back if there's some things you think you want to work on. And the last one is open to new ideas and ways of working. So that notion, again, collaboration is going to require you to think outside the box, do things differently, because now you're sitting around a table with other people who may have different ways and approaches. So again, if your organization, put in the negative, if your organization is not one that is comfortable with innovation, is one that says this is the way we do things and this is always the way we've done things, so we'll continue to do it that way, it's going to make it much more difficult for you to be a good collaborative partner. So think about your own organization, think about whether or not you are open to new ideas, whether you have a real sense of transparency, whether you have that culture that supports collaboration, whether you're comfortable with conflict and ready to handle complex accountabilities, and be prepared to give up on some power and authority. Although Heather is going to talk some more about risks and managing risks and thinking about that and when you actually go to valuing your own organization. So the next thing I want to talk about very briefly, because Heather's going to go into a lot more detail about this, is when you look at your own readiness as an organization, it'll be important to know that your organization actually values collaboration. So that means in your strategic thinking, in the way you've approached your strategic plan, you need to think about how collaboration broadly advances your strategic priorities, whether there's a clear need and benefits broadly of collaboration, whether you can identify tangible and intangible strengths and assets as an organization. So it's important for you, and if you look at your own strategic plan, the hope would be either one of your critical strategic priorities is to create more partnerships and collaborations. That should be there for you to in your strategic plan, or even better, rather than make it an isolated one item on your strategic plan, you have integrated the idea of collaboration into how you work internally as well as how you will achieve your mission with organizations. Also wanted to talk about another element of being ready to collaborate, and that is taking the time to identify what's been learned from your past and current collaborations. There's a number of things that you can ask yourself when looking at those collaborations that or partnerships that you're in right now, and go back a few years and think about those that you have been involved in. Think about, overall, when you look at them collectively, where have you focused your interests and activities? What's been gained by your partnerships and collaborations? What have been some of the consistent challenges? What would you do differently going forward in the future? And what do we think as an organization is the right mix to accomplish our priorities and goals? Right mix meaning the right kinds of collaborations and partnerships, the right intensities, the right complexity. And in learning that about your own organization, you're going to be much more ready to be better as a collaborative partner. So take the time to learn more about, take some learnings from your past and your present and use those to then try to improve your future collaborations. And again, Heather's going to talk about some tools that we have created that can you can lift up and use as a way to do that effectively. Another part of being ready to be a good collaborative partner is you have to think about whether your organization itself has a deep commitment throughout the whole organization to authentic collaboration. So has your board and management declared their interest in collaboration and declared their commitment to that? Have you considered the implications to your organization, and are your staff supported? All those are indicators of the kind of commitment you have made as an organization. Deep commitment, not just, oh, we should do a few more partnerships, but rather a deep commitment to your organization. And one of the ways that we think really can solidify that notion of commitment is to create a board policy document that talks about collaboration and that commitment. It might talk about your how you will inventory collaborations and relationships and activities, what mechanisms you'll use to review those, what degree of documentation might be required by the board in terms of your collaboration. Of course, the more complex they are, the more documentation you're going to require. What In terms of forming collaborations and partnership, where do you require board input to decision making and approvals and authorization, and what are those areas that can be delegated? That might depend upon how complex the collaboration is, and we're going to talk some more about that. And how is it appropriately supported in time, people, and funds? And again, when we go into what you need to look at in your organization, we're going to, with individual collaborations, we'll talk some more about that. So we want to take a moment now and just do a quick poll and get you to think about, based on what you have just heard, how prepared is your organization to be a good collaboration partner? So just think about your own organization. This is an anonymous poll, so you don't have to worry about naming the organization. And think about, how would we have scored against those questions? Would we have scored very well, not very well, not at all well, as we went through that checklist of things that tell you whether you're ready? So we'll just do that poll now, and we'll hand it over to Cassie to manage the poll. Okay, sharing poll results. Okay, I see a sign, that a note that says organizer must hide the poll results to enable screen sharing. So we'll just give it another minute to see if they're able to show the results of this poll. There we go. Just I'm assuming that we're working on, people are responding to the poll now, and we'll just take a minute to do that. And hoping that's taking place. Okay, I see a note to say I'm sharing the poll, so we should see it any minute. Okay. Just waiting for the poll to show up. We can't see the poll, maybe as presenters, but we're assuming that it's up and running, and in one moment we'll just move on from the poll. Okay. It's completed. Okay. Well, so we'll find out later about the poll. So let's move then. Thank you for taking the time to do that. And we'll just now, we've talked about your own organization and the degree to which you feel that you can be, your organization itself can be a good, an authentic collaborative partner. We also wanted to take a moment to talk about, are you individually a good collaborative partner? And again, you're going to hear about a tool that you can use to reflect on this. And some of the questions you might ask yourself, this would be you as an individual. Do I see a link between my organizational priorities and the collaborative work? Again, if you're sitting at a collaborative table, particularly if you're a manager, frontline staff, and you're not seeing any link between the things that you must accomplish as an individual on your own organizational priorities, then that's going to have an impact on your ability to be really committed to your collaboration work. The other piece is, are there other personal benefits that I gain? So to think about, by my sitting at the collaborative table as an individual, what kind of personal benefits? Am I learning about an area I didn't know about? Am I testing my leadership skills? Is there opportunities for me personally feel I've gained various benefits? Do I have the relevant skills, experience, and qualities to help advance the collaboration? A key one. And if you do, that's wonderful. And if you don't, then you can ask your organization to get more of those skills and help you with training or mentoring. And do I have any particular baggage is another question you might ask yourself to make sure you can be individually a good collaborative partner.